Rev up your engines!
Well, you know how I warned you about the lack of Nissan quality? Well, 2021 Nissan Rogues are now being recalled because of bad welds. People have been welding things for thousands of years. You think they could get that down pat, but no, they're not welding the seats right. They might not hold in an accident. You go flying through. You may be bolted to your seat, but the seat may come flying off because it's not welded correctly. It's the second row seats where the passengers are. Hilariously enough, these are made in Tennessee, and the seats are made by a different company. So, of course, they're blaming it on the seat company. Well, the seat company is Toyo Seat, but that's made in Tennessee, too. Now, this affects 47,000 Nissan Rogues. I tell people they're not that great quality. As they age, they fall apart. Yes, they cost a little bit less than the Toyotas and the Hondas, but they're not nearly the vehicles that Toyotas and Hondas make. Now, the fix is they have to remove and replace the entire seat back. They say they're going to inspect them. Well, let's see. They didn't inspect them right in the first place when they built them. Remember the Takata airbag fiasco, right? Well, originally the Takata airbags, they replaced them with other Takata airbags. Then those airbags were found to be faulty. So I think they should have to replace them all and maybe even use a different company to replace them with. Obviously, these guys don't know what they're doing. So again, lack of quality in Nissan. No big surprise. I've seen it for years. I don't see anything changing anytime soon. Here's an interesting fact. In 2021 so far, Toyota has sold one new FJ Cruiser. Now you might think, why only one? The truth behind that is they don't make them anymore. It's a brand new one, and they sold it. FJ Cruisers haven't been sold in the United States new since 2014 and in Japan since 2017. Toyota sold a new one that they had, 2021. Every once in a while, car companies do this. They have one that might have been a show car, whatever, brand new, not a used car. This year, Dodge sold two brand new Vipers. And also a Dodge Dart, but who cares about the Dodge Dart, right? They sold two Vipers. They had new ones, and they sold two of them. Stuff that somewhere has been stored away, and the company still got it, and they sold them. Car market, these are called zombie cars. You never know what's lying around somewhere. They can have it stored away, you know. Whoever bought it, they didn't say who bought it. I'm sure that they paid top dollar for it because the Cruisers are getting popular and the prices are going up and up and up because they're not making them. And they probably never will make them again because they were gas hogs. It looks bad on Toyota that lowers their CAFE ratings in the United States, the anti-pollution stuff. So I doubt if they'll ever make them. But kind of interesting. Somebody on the planet bought a brand new FJ Cruiser this year. Just one was for sale. And it was sold by Toyota to an individual. Now, this particular one is the final edition model, which is really becoming a cult classic. So whoever bought it, they made a smart move, you know. Maybe it's the last new one in the world that was for sale. Who knows? Although there's a lot of people nowadays thinking about collecting, like they'll buy the toy and like keep it in the box and the wrapper and think it's going to be worth money in the future. Well, in case of the toys, that's sort of a rarity. But, I mean, if you got the last FJ Cruiser and kept it, probably will increase in value, especially if you didn't drive the thing. Keep it under wraps and sell it 20 years from now. Who knows what you'd get for it? If you've been watching the news, a brand new Tesla Model S Plaid caught fire in Pennsylvania and burnt down to the ground. So people think they're a really hot car. In the case of this, it really was a hot car. The guy in Pennsylvania said he was trapped inside and he was able to break his way out. The fire department came and they said that it took about 200,000 gallons of water to put the stupid thing out. That's the thing about lithium batteries. When lithium burns, it's hot and it's electrical fire, so they keep self-combusting again once you try to put them out. The firefighters had to put a 5-inch supply line on to put the thing out. They're lucky they were in an area where they could get a 5-inch supply line. Now, this particular one was one of the first 250 supplied to customers, and it's already burnt down to the ground. He can talk all he wants about speed. How about a little build quality so the things don't burn down when they're brand new? You know, you pay 130 grand for one of those things? Hey, maybe they're going to have to make them like boats. They'll have to have like halon fire extinguishers built in, so in case they start on fire, they can put themselves out. Maybe he's going to have to start thinking about that if he's going to build them that crappy. And of course, Tesla says, oh, he has the safest cars in the world. Okay, one out of the 250 just burned itself to the ground. I wouldn't call that safe. I'd call that baloney hype, P.T. Barnum boasting, and in reality, no. They're not safe and they're not very well built. If a brand new one burns down to the ground. Let's hope he had insurance on the car. Well, it was a brand new car. I'm sure he had insurance on it. But of course, if the insurance adjusters see this, they're going to start raising the rates for fire insurance on these things if they start burning down, driving down the road. I mean, Quality and Tesla, they're not even in the same universe. Ho Hum says, what are the harder to spot problems when you buy a used car? You want to make sure they haven't just pulled lights off on the dash, like the check engine warning light. So what you do is just turn the key on, don't start the car. Make sure all the lights are come on. If it doesn't have the check engine light or the picture for the check engine on, they've disconnected the bulb. I'd walk away from it. People do that because it hides problems the car has. Another thing is, a lot of guys have a car, won't start when it's cold. You go to check out a used car, tell them I want the car cold. You get there, put your hand on the engine. If it's hot, say, hey, I told you I want a cold car. I don't want a hot one. Because a warmed up car starts easy. Maybe it starts really bad when it's cold. You want to see the engine when it's cold. And of course, they say it's never been in a wreck. The easiest way to check that is with your eyes on the sunlight. Don't check out a car in the rain because then the water beads up. You can't tell. You look at a car in sunlight, the human eyes can see like 1.5 million different shades of color. You can easily look around and see, hey, this white doesn't match that white. The car's been in a wreck, been repainted. It's another thing that's sometimes hard to see. You see it in the bright sunlight though, so don't try it when it's raining where the car's all wet. Another thing is, look at the tires. And if they're all brand new, and look inside and the sign that says made in China, why does it have brand new cheap Chinese tires? Probably because there's a problem in the front end. It's wearing the tires out. And they put these cheapies so they look good. They won't show wear because they're brand new. Tell the mechanic when he checks it out. Check my suspension. It's got all these new cheap tires. See if there's a problem. Things like that you always want to watch for. They're not that hard to check when you know what to look for. And when you do, if there's a red flag, don't buy that used car. BB says, why is my 06 Saab 9 2X misfiring? PO301, that's misfire, cylinder number 1. It shakes at idle. I replaced the coil pack. The problem was gone for 2 weeks, then came back. Then the mechanic put spark plugs in, and it's still acting up. You got a Saab. Especially that. The later ones, they were junk. That's one of the reasons the company went bankrupt and doesn't exist anymore. You didn't say the mileage it has, but let's say it's high mileage. It's probably the number 1 cylinder going out. PO301 is misfire cylinder number 1. Do a compression test of all 4 cylinders. Then do a leak down test. You can have a mechanic do it. It's not hard. And if the leak down test and the pressure show number 1 cylinder's worn out, you got either a blown head gasket or bad valves. The engine's worn out. You're going to have to take it apart. It's more money than the car's worth. Start there. Because you did the obvious. Piston rings, valves going out. When you change the coil and the plug, it might have fixed it for a short time. It's new, but then the engine being worn is going to clog up that spark plug. Now, just for your own curiosity, take all the spark plugs out and look at them. If you see the number 1 spark plug's all messed up, looking dark and carbon on it, and the others aren't, you know number 1 cylinder is shot. And I can just about guarantee you that's the problem. Those engines weren't that great. They're over-engineered. The things were all computer run, and as they aged, they'd fall apart. Nobody knew how to fix them, and now the company doesn't even exist anymore. Tanago says, an emergency stop led to spongy pedal and increased handbrake lever travel. I slammed on the brakes and now that's my problem. The pedal gets kind of spongy and the handbrake has to pull up higher. Well, then that has to do with your rear brakes. The emergency brakes are in the back, so there's a problem there. You want to pull the back wheels off and look inside. Could be a damaged caliper back there, or if you have drum brakes, it could have damaged the little wheel cylinder there, or it could have broken something on the adjuster. You want to take the rear wheels off and check them, because if you got to pull the emergency up more, it's done something to the back brakes. Unless you have an oddball car, like some of the Subarus, the emergency brake is in the front. Find out which your car has. Most cars have the emergency brake in the back, but there's a few oddball cars that have the emergency brakes in the front. It would be the emergency brakes that you check, and in most cars, that's the back one. So you don't want to pull off the back tires and check the back brakes, because there's something going on after you had your emergency stop. Could have been a cylinder's been damaged. You'd see fluid leaking out of it. So check that first. Gastropol 62 says my transmission's slipping. Every time I move from my driveway, the transmission slips. But after that, when I get on the road, it doesn't slip and drives normal. When I go from my destination to another place, it doesn't slip at all. It's only first thing in the morning. Tranny has 142,000 miles, never rebuilt. Is it going out? Well, obviously it's worn with all that mileage. I don't know if anybody even changed the fluid in it at all. But here's something you could try, and it might help it in the short run. Take 1 quart of the fluid out. Put in 1 quart of Lucas automatic transmission stop slip. It's amazing stuff. And if it stops, great. It is wearing, yes. And I wouldn't say change the fluid and filter, because with all that mileage, if you do, it might slip even worse. New fluid is extremely clean and slippery, and your transmission works by fluid dynamics than the friction. So the old dirty stuff might actually work better than clean. But you can take one cord out, put the Lucas transmission stop slip in, and I've seen after 200 miles sometimes they'll stop slipping and they'll go quite some time that way. Try that. But yeah, it's wearing internally. There's no doubting that. Try that. It might help it for a while. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.